for joining us this morning. We are here to discuss the college process and the senior year essentials. I am Kate Licata, and Stefania Bopp and I are the networking co-chairs for the 12th grade. And today we have with us Bill Egan, our principal, as you know. Ari Rothman is the vice principal for the class of 2022. We have Jim Zambarano, who's in charge of the yearbook. Cynthia Rivera, the school counseling department chair. Sue Carroll, the college and career center coordinator. And Lisa Granite, she is our school's registrar. So please use the chat Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we will try and answer your questions in a timely manner, maybe after each person speaks. And just so you know, the meeting will be recorded and uploaded to the website in a day or two. So without further ado, Bill, did you want to start?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say hello to everyone. Once again, I wish we were in person doing these events, and hopefully soon. You know, things have been favorable from a metric standpoint, but you know, we're very fortunate that we have such an excellent panel of experts to talk a little bit about the college process and some senior follow-up stuff. You know, senior year is a really exciting time. You know, we were just talking before off air. It's nerve-wracking, but you know, truly, it will lead to positive things coming for all of your kids. You know, New Canaan is a very special place, a very special community, and this is a really special school. Kids are cared for, they work really hard, they're really talented, and things do work out, even though sometimes it seems uneasy or uncertain. So I find myself to be very fortunate to be the principal and work with such talented people, and they're going to take you through that today. So at this point, I will turn it over to Ari, and I'll probably say goodbye. I have a couple other meetings, but I just wanted to say welcome, and I hope everyone enjoys this meeting and are always welcome to reach out to me throughout the year, and I'll help them in any way that I can. So thank you, and thank all the panel for being here today, and thank you guys for running the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hello to everyone and basically reinforce what Bill said. There's a lot of information you'll get today. As parents, really, I think the main thing is helping everybody stay grounded. This is a process, and it's not always working to our advantage, but it's best to follow through and be prepared. But keep in mind, this does not determine who your kid is. Just enjoy, stay calm, and we're here to help over the course of the year. Turn it over to whomever now.
I believe that's you, Jim.
All right. Hi, I'm Jim Zambarano. I teach the yearbook class. I'm the advisor for the yearbook, and Mr. Gallo in the main office, Paul Gallo, is our business person. So if you have any questions, you can always email Mr. Gallo or myself. I thought I'd start with that, and then I'm going to share my screen and show. So high school website. Let's go to schools. Where do you find the information for yearbook? So I'm going to send out an email with all of this in it, but in case you lose that link, it's also on the high school website under quick links at the bottom. It's called yearbook information. Minimize this, get that out of the way. And the first page comes up, first deadline. So this is for ordering, right? This is for everybody, not just senior parents. The order information is all here. We start the book off at $70, and then we basically have to order the entire amount of books in the beginning of the year for the end of the year. So it helps us know how many books to order if we can get the orders in early. So we basically give a discount of the book at $70 in the beginning of the year, and then that price comes up the closer you are to the day that we hand it out. This link will bring you directly to, I'm clicking on it, it's going to bring you directly to Jostens, which is where you will order your book from. When you click on the next link, order my book, you'll have to fill this out and enter the information. When you're done, you go to the checkout and you can order the book. It's as simple as that. You pay online. Hop back a couple. Trying to move this. There we go. I lost my place. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So that's on ordering. If you scroll up here, order information. The next one is senior information, which is pretty much why you're all here. The first page that comes out is basically just saying congratulations. It gives you information, and at the bottom of that is my name with phone number and email, and as well as Mr. Gallo's phone number and email if you have any questions. We go to step 1, and this one has to be updated. I apologize for that. It is not updated yet. So the information on this page, we have changed companies. We are using Legacy for several reasons. But if you'd like more information about why, you can give me a call and ask. I will update this information. I'll have an email for them as well as a phone number. I literally called them this morning and asked for that information again. Step 2 is on, we collect for the yearbook baby pictures and senior quotes, and that's done right here. Senior quote is something that will appear underneath each senior. It's something to be taken serious. If for any reason I am basically the final editor, I run things past Bill occasionally if I have questions and say this one's kind of on the fence, I'm not really sure. But they don't get a second chance to send in another quote, so they need to take it seriously. I go through 300 and some odd, however many students are in the school this year as far as seniors go, and I Google each one of the quotes. I copy and paste each quote into Google. If it comes up as a song lyric and that part of the lyric is clean but the rest of the song is inappropriate, the quote disappears. It just says congratulations class of 2022. So please make sure that your children know that if they want a quote to stay in, it needs to be an appropriate quote. And an appropriate song lyric. And how they submit that, they just click on these, and these are Google Forms, and they can submit that. That goes for the senior quote, the baby picture. And then lambs to rams, we're looking for group shots from like elementary, middle school, and then through high school, group shots of friends. So, you know, as they're growing up. And we basically do not promise to put all these pictures in. These are basically go into collage pages, and we use some of them sporadically throughout the book based on you know, the quality of the picture and how good it looks in each section. That's that one. Step 3. So ads, we get a lot of, or recognition pages at the back half of the book. It's literally almost half of the book. There are senior recognition pages. We call them ads. You're purchasing a page in the book based on how large of, or how much of the page you want to purchase. There are different sizes. And these are, you know, congratulations to whoever. There are templates. This is all done online now through Jostens site. The videos we're remaking currently. So those videos, that link isn't going to work here and the link isn't going to work up over there. But the quick start does work, and all this will get updated probably within the next 2 weeks. So you have plenty of time. The deadline for that is December 1st. Most of the things are December 1st. That said, if you have a specific issue that you weren't able to get this done by then, just email me and say, hey, I need a little extra time. And almost always we can extend this deadline, but we try not to, right? So I'll get a whole bunch. I'll get about 20 people on December 1st saying I need more time. It would be nice if that didn't happen, but I know life happens. So we realize that. So if there's an issue, just give us a holler. And all of this information, once it's edited, I will be emailing all of these pages out to all the senior parents and students, as well as underclass for the order form. So you'll probably see an email from myself within 2 weeks on all this information. I'm going to go back to that step one because it was on portraits, and some of you may have questions about that. We are again using Legacy Studios. The picture senior portrait should be done by January 12th. We ask that that's done by the 12th. That deadline we don't really control because it's not the high school, it's Legacy Studios. And the way that a book is published is in 16 pages at a time. So this is one of the first sections that we get done. Well, we do student life, we do underclass, and we'll do Spirit Week, and then senior portraits, faculty. So as the book is being created, it's being sent to the publisher at 12 pages at a time, and it's printed, and that part of the book sits on the shelf, so that at the end of the year, actually not the end of the year, but April 1st, we need to have the main book done, which is 480 pages, almost 500 pages. If they waited to print 500 pages, we wouldn't get the book until the next year. So the book is printed 16 pages at a time as we meet our deadlines through the year. So we ask that people take heed to the deadlines because it affects how the book is produced. And we want to get the seniors their book before they leave for the summer. So please be mindful of that. I'm going to go into the chat and see what questions.
Looks like there's one question about the cost, if you think the cost will stay the same.
Zero all stays same date price. Thanks. Yes, they got it. Anything else?
That's all I see.
In Q&A, Jim, there's
Ads benefit the school or class?
yeah.
Oh, so there was another question in Q&A. Did the ads benefit the school or class at all, or just, oh, and it just disappeared. So I don't know what happened to that question.
Oh,
So
it was, I'm sorry.
that's all right. I'm going to stop sharing. So the ads in the back of the book help keep the price of the book down for everyone. So we don't make money on the ads. It goes right back into the cost of the book, and it's how we keep the book down. So I have kids at Massac High School. Their book is $75, and their book is about 200 pages. Our books cost us about anywhere from $125 to $150 to produce, and so the ad sales help reduce the price of the book. In addition, if let's say there was an extra $1,000, $5,000 there, it goes back into the class. It goes for scanners. We buy cameras for the class. So if there's extra money, again, it doesn't go to buying tires for my car. It goes back into the class and or other educational components. So that was a good question. Anything else?
Another one under the chat. Is the senior ad December 1st deadline to order and pay, or have all the pictures done too?
All right, so the senior ad should be completely done by December 1st. So if you, again, don't give me about 2 weeks and then go back to that website, or wait for the email to come out. And then those links will all be correct and the videos will work. So the goal is that you are done with that ad. You basically go in, you say, I want to create an ad, you create the account. And then it'll say, do you want a full page, a half page, or a quarter page? You select that, and then it'll show you the templates that are available. And you might say, oh, I need more spots. A quarter page isn't going to be enough. So you look at the half page one. You can basically go back and select half page and say, oh, this will work. Or you go to a full page. And then you're uploading, dragging, and dropping. And again, the videos will share that. But yes, the deadline for that would be December 1st. And then purchasing a book, the sooner you do, the better. Senior pictures should be done by January. I think it was January 1st. So again, all that information will be there. I hope I answered that question. Anything else? All right, I'm going to say bye-bye because I have other things that I need to do as well. So thank you all for listening. And again, look for that email in about 2 weeks to come out. It may be sooner if I get the information back. So it usually takes me 2 or 3 days to receive the stuff and then upload it and put it onto the website. And then I'll send out the email. So the website and everything else is working. But you will find it in that spot that I just shared with you under quick links on the homepage of the high school.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to start? Cindy?
Oh, I think we're up next, right? Well, we're going to review a number of things that we reviewed last week, and a lot of this will be answering questions. But we are going to start, I believe, with Sue, who's going to start to talk a little bit in more detail about how college visits work.
Thanks, Cindy. Good morning to everybody. A couple of things. First of all, again, if you're interested in me being your reader for you, your curator of all things college admissions, then follow us on Twitter or on Facebook. And it's a great place to find reminders, stuff about financial aid, college admissions in general. Also, I've done probably 4 or 5 mock interviews already. Again, all your students will figure out a mutually beneficial time for us to meet, and I'm happy to do mock interviews. I probably do 40 or 50 of them a year by the time December comes. So please remind your seniors of that. But as far as visits are concerned, we've probably had about 7 so far, and they've been terrific. Your students comport themselves beautifully and are, of course, smart and delightful kids. There's 3 places to see the visits for students. If they're in the building, of course, it's the good old bulletin board. For you all, the easiest way would be to go to the school counseling page, click on college visits, and there you will see my Google Calendar of all college visits. And the third place would be Naviance. That's the most important place for your students because that's where they register. They must register for the visit to come to the visit, especially if it is a virtual visit, because that's how I will send the Zoom links. On the Google Calendar, though, which is open to the public, you will also note, for example, on the 29th of September, there's a Zoom link for it looks like a visit for Bates, Davidson, Oberlin, and Occidental. Those are colleges that have joined forces to share their information and to have these group information sessions. If the Zoom link is available on the college and on the school counseling college visit calendar, it is not a school event. It is open to the worldwide public. I've been contacted by college admissions people asking for us to share the link. And the reason why I do that is, for example, none of those colleges are coming to visit New Canaan High School, or at least have not made appointments yet. So it's a chance for our kids to still have the experience of an information session with those colleges. Okay. And again, if the student can't make the visit, there are regret forms, and I'm happy to give the regret form to the student. But again, Lisa Granite has uploaded all of these to the forms section for seniors. And also, some colleges don't track demonstrated interest. Vanderbilt visited us the other day, and Vanderbilt doesn't track interest. And so I didn't forward the regret forms to the rep. Instead, I gave the students the rep's contact information. Much better for them to reach out to the rep directly and ask any questions of the rep in that manner. So that's it for college visits. If you have any questions about them, happy to answer them. We're, of course, always lucky to have as many visits as we do. And again, so far, so good. They've been terrific. Cindy, or Lisa, I think you're going to talk a little bit about transcripts now.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Good morning, everyone. So we asked the students to give us a month to process the transcript request form. That gives the counselors time to meet with them, have their senior appointments, and write their letters of recommendation. And once all that is completed, the counselors will give me back the information, and at that time, I'll process it through Naviance. All of the transcript request forms, as Sue said, are online. They're on the counseling website. I have one in case you want to see what it looks like, but they are all fillable now. So they can either, the students can either fill it out online, attach it as an email to me. If they want to fill it out, print it and drop it off, that's fine as well. There's also an ED form. If they're applying ED, we ask them to fill that out as well and either attach it or bring it to us. And so there's a few places that they need to really be conscious of. When they go into Naviance, we ask that they put the schools into schools they're first thinking about, and when they decided that they're going to apply, to actually move them over to active applications. And then they need to fill out the form, make sure that they made their senior appointment. And that's it. That's it.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen and show the website real quick. So, and to show you where we're referring to all these forms and see if this works out okay. So that you can see this. So on the school counseling website, which is under students, school counseling, or under the quick links, if you just scroll down, you see the senior information page, and I'll show the senior scholarship information. But if you go to this senior information page, this will have all those forms and tutorials that we've been referring to. So this is where kids can find almost everything when we talk about college stuff. We put everything in here. So students received in the mail the senior profile sheet over the summer, and we asked them to fill that out. And certainly your parent questionnaire is a very important piece as well. So those are sort of the beginning pieces, and then the transcript request form that Lisa was just talking about, we asked them that they fill it out. Even if they just have one college right now, just their early college, fill that out and attach it to an email and send it to Mrs. Granick. She's made it very simple for everybody. They can save that to their desktop as well. And then when they have more colleges to apply to, they go back to it, add more colleges. We do ask that that first college is the college that's most important for us to have 3 to 4 weeks notice for getting things together, to write our recs, to pull materials together, to get everything set. After that first one, it's a very quick process. It's just that first one that does take us that time. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood all that. I think the college here's the college visit regret form, but the college visit calendar is also over here too. So you can find so much under our little page here. So don't forget it. We do a lot of good stuff right there. So, okay, I'm going to talk about, yeah.
Cindy, there was a question about ED forms. Do you want to address that?
Sure. What's the question?
When do they fill it out?
Oh,
If you're
okay.
early decision.
So we actually have a lot of kids who are saying, I'm toggling between two that I'm going to ED to, and I'm not sure yet. And I still have to visit, or there's things like that that I want to do. It is fine to go ahead and order your transcripts and get your package together and do the application. There is an ED form on Common App that the student has to say they've now decided to apply ED that needs to be signed by a parent and the counselor. So you can decide that 2 or 3 days before the deadline, and we can throw it in at the last minute. You can get everything else ready and then decide to ED at that school and send that in at that point. If it is, when we ask students to do that, they're doing it on Common App, but they're also filling out this form. Oh, never mind. Filling this form out here, because that notifies the counselor there is one. We don't get notifications from Common App or from Naviance that there's an ED form to sign somewhere without going into every student and toggling through. So we ask students to fill that out so we know and have a record that that's what we signed off on. They do the ED1 form. Once they hear from that ED form, and a lot of kids are also thinking about ED2, which are January deadlines, we don't fill those out till they hear back from that ED1 school. Okay, so I hope that answers that question.
Cindy, there's a question, I don't know if this makes sense. If student is applying EA, do they need to fill out the
No.
ED form?
ED is committing to the school that you are attending if you get in and you are withdrawing all other applications. EA is just an early notification. And you still have till May 1st to decide, so you may be applying to other schools as well. So there's no forms to sign on that. Just notify, notice
Okay,
your
and-
deadlines, because the deadlines are very important.
So someone is specifically asking, what is the ED1
It's different for
deadline?
every college. So the earliest are usually November 1st or November 15th. So the student has to look on the school's website and understand that. It's usually in Naviance as well. But your best record is what's on the college's website. There are a few October 15th early action deadlines. I don't think there's an ED deadline that early. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But so October 15th generally is our earliest deadline that we're getting anything out to schools.
Okay, there's another question here. If the student knows all the colleges they are applying to now, should we send in transcript request with the full list?
You can, the actual, you can we'll send it, but it won't go anywhere until the child is actually applied to the school. So once the application is in, then those documents that we sent sit in cyberspace somewhere and don't go anywhere. So yes, if you want to, but they can, a lot of times kids see what their early schools are and then change their list for the later schools. So, so that's a decision to be made, and they can talk to their counselor about that. What's the right way to go with that? Okay. All right, test scores, SATs, ACTs, all of the above. Students, generally speaking, colleges are super score almost all SATs, and ACT more and more is being super scored by colleges, but that's not still a given on the ACT. Generally, almost all SAT colleges super score the SAT. And that means, if anyone doesn't know, they take pieces from different testing sites. So if your math is better in June and your reading score is better in October, they'll take each of those and combine them for your super score. So you can keep a look for that. This is something that's because so many schools are test optional last year and this year, it's a big discussion to have with your child as to whether they're sending their scores. And it may be different for different colleges. Our general advice is that if your child's scores are average or above average to the school they're applying, it's worth sending. If it's not, it's low average or below average to the schools that you're applying based on Naviance statistics of what New Canaan kids, where they've been accepted, then it doesn't help your application. So there's no reason to do that. So it's something you really want to look at carefully and make that decision based on each school. If your child is a great test taker and perhaps their GPA doesn't really reflect how good a test taker they are, maybe those SAT scores or ACT scores will help their application. So that's also a discussion. If those are the things that are showing the school that of your strengths, then maybe we do want to send them. So so it's that's a bigger question than it looks. Also, if they're still sitting for perhaps the October SAT, those scores can get to the schools for early deadlines. You wouldn't have the chance to look at them first, but if you have a November 1st deadline, the October scores generally will get there in time for those early deadlines. So if your child needs to send scores, but they're hoping this one last one will be better, go ahead and send it. If it doesn't work out that it's better than your spring scores, that's fine. They still super score and take whatever your best scores are. But if Octobers are better, those will get in time for your child to send. Those have to be ordered from the testing agencies themselves. We don't send scores, that's your personal property. So you would have to go to College Board for the SAT and ACT student for the ACT to have official scores sent. Many colleges just ask you to self-report the scores at this point. You can send them later. So you just would have to read the fine print as to what they want at each time. So does that make sense for everybody?
Cindy, I have one
Last-
question.
Sure.
Do you have to send scores from all the tests taken, or can you pick which test scores go? So for example, their student took one in April, June, September. Can they just send April and September, for example?
In most cases, yes. There are a few colleges that ask you to send all scores. I'm not sure of the rationale behind that, but they do ask you to send all scores. So, because even then, some computer or some student is recording the best scores that go into the file. So you just follow what the colleges are requiring. There are a few, I think, Sue, do you know, like Georgetown, maybe that still requires all scores. You're on mute, Joe. So, but most schools say,
Yeah,
You
it's Georgetown.
it
There's probably only about 10 left that require all scores.
yeah. And I think they just like to see progression and strengths and stuff, but they generally, the SATs and the ACTs, I've sat in on admissions committees at various colleges, which was really interesting to see. They generally have that score up in the tiny right-hand corner, and they're talking about the student. The score is the last thing they care about. You're within a range, good. If you're not within a range, okay, what else? And so it is so much less important than it's ever been, and it was never all that important to begin with. That transcript and what students say about themselves and teachers say about them tends to really rise up above those scores. So I would say don't worry too much about these scores. 40% of our students never submitted scores last year and did just fine in the college process. If you don't send them, you don't submit them, they're score optional. Colleges truly have found a way to look at an application without those scores. So it's a nice stress reliever. Okay, should I move on?
Yeah, I think, and also when you talk about rec, Cindy, if you want to talk about the FERPA waiver a little bit too.
Sure, absolutely. Recommendations. We asked students to ask 2 teachers for recommendations, and the third is the guidance counselor recommendation, school counselor recommendation. So we're asking students to do that. Most colleges require 1 or 2, and some will also say they'll not take more than 1 or 2. So again, they have to look carefully at what the requirements are. All of this is in Naviance, so students can easily see it. And when they work with their counselor in their senior appointment, we go through all that to make sure that they're doing that invitation properly as well. Teachers, just understand, teachers write these recs on their own time while they're also doing schools. So please give them plenty of time to write, 3 to 4 weeks, we ask, so that they have the time to find the time to do a decent job for your child. We ask that they go look for those teachers from last year. Don't just send them an email and just have an in-person, perhaps they asked last year, would you still write for me? And then send the invitation from Naviance to which links their account, the teacher's rep to their account to go out. We also ask students to sign what is called the FERPA waiver. This is in Common App, that under the education portion, they have to fill that FERPA waiver out in order to match their accounts with Naviance. The FERPA asks that students waive or not waive their rights to see the recommendation at the college to which they attend after they're attending school. So the waiver is pretty narrow as to what they're asking, but it also gives teachers a bit of an assurance that what they're writing and it gives colleges the same thing, what they're writing is an honest recommendation. There wasn't help from the student or their parents as to what to write on that for that recommendation. There are some teachers who say if they don't see that waiver, that they will ask the student to find someone else to write for them. And some colleges will take note of that too and look at their recommendations with a different eye if the waiver's not formed. So students have absolutely the right to not waive their rights, but to read that carefully, you're not waiving much in terms of seeing your recommendation, but it does give people the insurance that it's an honest recommendation that's coming to them. And be assured teachers and counselors write positive recommendations. If they couldn't, they'd be asking the student to ask someone else. Okay, any questions on that? Just two different.
Can I jump in and just underscore what you just said, Cindy? That's a very, very important point. No teacher wants to write something on behalf of a kid that's not going to help them. And I would hope that any teacher is honest with a kid in saying, I will write what you did in my class. I will write, whatever. And if that's not going to help you, then I'd rather not write for you. So please understand that it's not a requirement for teachers, and they're going to be fair and think of what's best for the kid in agreeing or not agreeing to take the time to write the letter. That's an important piece that really matters. Excellent, Cindy.
And there's two different kinds of recommendations. The teacher rec is about the student in the classroom. So they're talking about them, what did they do well in the classroom? What were they a leader in the group? Or did they contribute something that was really positive in the class? And how they did maybe in a particularly difficult class, or how they rose up from the beginning of the year and became a stronger student, and what the teacher saw every day with this student. The counselor rec, on the other hand, we take the student in perspective, the whole picture, the student over 4 years. Where did we see growth? What were they involved in? What was important to them? Much of this information is gleaned from the senior meeting that we have with them, because that's where we finally sit down and talk about their journey through high school and what got in the way and how do they want to be portrayed to a college. So that's an important piece too, and very important to colleges to understand this student within the community of New Canaan and New Canaan High School. These are our stories to write. I love writing these stories. So these are important pieces, and that's why we want time to really explore them too. Take our time with those letters. Okay, questions on that?
Yeah, Cindy, what about those who have a new counselor?
Yeah, so those who have a new counselor, we have a couple new counselors here. Notes were left with the previous counselor, writing up and outlining what's important to know about each student. And then the senior meeting becomes even that much more important. And generally speaking, we take our time to look back at teacher comments, to look back at what's on record and what's on file there to help. And then also know we work as a full team. Some of the things, that we will help a new counselor understand is which courses were particularly difficult, how do you describe American Studies? Because colleges don't always understand what that means and what was that course like for them. So we all work together, reading each other's recs and making sure it has the power that it needs to have in providing support for that student.
Cindy, there's a question about if the school is only allowing one teacher recommendation, how does a student determine which teacher recommendation to send? And do they have that choice?
They do have a choice, and there's a process in Naviance to do that, and we'll show them how to do that. It's under teacher recommenders. There's two different switches, either send to all schools or send to specific schools. So I always say, who's your first number one teacher who's recommending for you that you most feel will knows you the best, will write for you? And it could be just because it's the subject area you're most interested in. If Mr. Reed is writing for you for physics and you're going to be a physics major, maybe he's going to be the one who's going to be your number one. And so that person, you probably will click the box in Naviance under recommenders to have his rec sent to all schools. The second teacher, you're going to have to select each school to which, depending on whether they'll accept more than one recommender. So again, the counselor will walk them through that in our meeting, or even if it's not a meeting, it's a 5-minute stop in and show me how to do this. We're glad to help with that.
And also there's another question about, it goes back to transcripts, but for fine arts, for example, music auditions, things like that, where there are several different dates, application dates, audition dates. How do you suggest a date to be thought about for sending a transcript? Back it up to the earliest date?
That's absolutely what I would do. Whatever your earliest date is, just have all that data ready, because for those schools, generally the portfolio or audition is going to be the piece that's most important, and the transcript is the backup that they're good enough to manage the curriculum in one of those programs.
Great, thanks. I think that's about it so far.
Okay, good. I do say, we say 4 recommendations maximum. If you have 2 academic teachers, perhaps an art teacher, and then the guidance counselor, that's 4. That's enough. We don't want too many recommendations. Or a student has a job or has been a leader in their church and wants to have an outside recommendation as the 4th recommendation. That's great if it speaks to a different part of them that we're not seeing in the school environment. So that also is a great thing to add, but not more than that. Then it gets a little bit too much for the colleges to read, and they start to wonder what's wrong with this kid that they need so many recommenders. So
pretty much every college that has visited us so far has commented on that there's a reason why they ask for as many recommendations as they do. There's a reason why they asked for 2 and not 3. So they were all pretty clear on that. So
okay, that tells you that. So okay, do you want to talk a little bit about financial aid stuff?
I do. I just want to, of course, invite everyone for the financial aid Zoom on October 14th at 7 p.m. You will receive a link for it. Even if you don't think that you're going to need financial aid, I can't encourage you enough to have sort of, in my house, it was always at the dining room table. Things that were serious always happened at the dining room table, where you really explain to your kids how you're paying for college. If you saved from the moment they were born, if grandparents are going to help out, if you're going to apply for financial aid, it's a conversation on the bridge to adulthood that you definitely need to have with your children. Even again, if you're not applying for financial aid, they should know for their own personal use, and when they're tempted to do 5 keg stands in a row, that you are paying $80,000 a year for that education in some cases. So I think that you are doing your teenager a disservice if you don't discuss financial aid and college tuition, room and board, all of that with your teenager. I think it's really, really important. The FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, opens on October 1st. The form will become more and more simple. If this is your first child, then by the time your second or third get around, the form will be even simpler then. Even if you're not applying for financial aid, the FAFSA might be something that you want to fill out, because many jobs on college campuses happen through the financial aid office, even paid research jobs. So that's something that you might want to think about as you're thinking about the whole financial landscape for college. Again, financial aid night, the guide that we have is terrific. October 14th via Zoom, and we will send you the link.
Good. I'll talk a little bit about essays. The kids have been really good about sharing their essays as they go along. They have the one personal essay, which is 165 words, which isn't very much. Oh no, 650 words. What am I saying? A little dyslexia there. Thank you. And then and so those are, important, and they're working with their English teachers and with us on those. So that's fantastic. The Writing Center is up and running, and they too are working with kids to help edit those essays for grammar and message. I work with the Writing Center to understand how a proper college essay should look. And so they are all up and running and doing a great job. The key is all those little supplemental essays that pop up. And we always encourage students, please know what those are ahead of time. You don't want to be filling your application out 2 days before it's due. You throw in that you're going to be an arts major of some kind, and then there's 3 other essays that you need to fill out. Some different pieces of the application trigger some questions for certain schools. So it's a little tricky in figuring it out. That's why we ask kids to start early with these applications in case anything comes up. Those small essays that colleges have, the extra questions are important. They put them in there for a reason. They don't just throw them in there, and they read them carefully to understand, does it feel like they're cutting and pasting from somewhere else? Are they just looking at the website and then cutting and pasting from that? Please don't do that, because the admissions people are the ones who wrote that website. So don't do that. But to really have your child think about it, usually it's about why they're particularly interested in going to that school. What is it that's attracted them? So those are more like 250 words. Sometimes those things are just 1-word things, or simple phrases, or what kind of tree would you be kind of things. So you have to look at those and be careful with them as well. So it's a lot to do. This is why we're always telling kids, please don't apply to 20 schools, because you couldn't possibly do all that. And you want to take it one thing at a time. They do count. A lot of times these essays say they're optional. We always say that does not mean they're optional. That's really as much as they say it. If you don't fill it out, then that raises a flag as to why you didn't fill it out, that you didn't care enough to fill out those extra ones. So don't believe that optional actually means optional when it comes to college admissions. They do drive us crazy with that. The COVID question, there is an additional question about COVID and how this last year has impacted students, and that is optional. I think in that question, schools are really looking to see, when you were home and hybrid, was there not enough computers to go around? Was there 5 people, trying to do school at once and the internet wasn't solid? Did a parent lose a job or have to stay home and make some difficult decisions? Were people affected by the disease? So there's a lot of things they can say, and they can be positive as well. Did they suddenly relax for the first time in their lives because there were no activities to do and they suddenly decided that they love to bake? I mean, I think you can be good about those and positive about them too. If you have nothing to say, you don't have to say. I do have a lot of my boys who are kind of saying, yeah, it was fine. I hated it, but I was fine. I got through, they don't feel like they have anything to say. So I'll forgive some of these boys, but if you feel like there was an impact on the family or with school and how I've had a lot of students say, I just really learned how to work independently so much more. And I think even saying things like that is fine to throw in there. But generally speaking, they're looking for, were you impacted to a level and your grades were impacted, or your what you did moving forward was impacted. So good to do that. In terms of people looking at their essays, you just don't want too many people. We always say the parents are not the best one. I thought my daughters were beautiful, but she didn't really listen to me, so that's okay. But you do have someone who knows, an English teacher, counselor, is fine. A lot of times they say 2 people looking at it is plenty. So maybe 3 people would be maximum. But just be careful about it. We so much want it to be a 17-year-old student's voice, and it has to be felt by a college that that's what they're reading, is someone who is letting them know who this person is, what they're affected by, what has been their growth, what has changed their life, what has moved them towards a area of study that they're hoping to do. The English teachers are great with topics and helping them decide that, but counselors can help with that too. So anything we can do around that, I'm glad to. Any questions on that? And the Writing Center certainly will help with that too. Questions?
one
Good.
Q&A, is it okay if the essay is 40 words over the limit?
Probably not. I think it gets shut down at 650 words. So you won't be able to submit it.
And also there's a big deal for colleges who have given you instructions, and can you follow the instructions, or do you only like to do things your way? So I think the word limit, there's a reason why there's a word limit.
Okay. One other question, when you link the recs, it says you can have 2. Is the counselor separate from that, or does the 2 include the counselor?
The two is just the teacher's. Counselor is separate always, not included.
And there was a question also about whether you should sign the FERPA or not. That's not really for us to say. We will tell you that most kids do sign away their right. The only time you can see a recommendation is at the college to which you have matriculated. So you can't go to colleges that denied you and ask to see the recommendation, only to the college you matriculated. As Cindy said, very narrow. Great majority of kids sign their, in fact, it's rare to not waive your rights. But again, your decision.
But teachers and counselors do not share their recs with students this year at all, so. Okay.
All right, do you want to move on to interests? The
Sure.
last part of the application is the 10 slots available for your outside interests. And we just, for example, the rep from Maury Power, the rep from Colgate was just talking about this with kids yesterday. And she said, you know, we all know that for the last year and a half, especially for the current senior class, maybe you didn't get to participate in everything that you normally would participate in. And don't be afraid of saying that, you know, if you taught yourself how to play the guitar, then put it on the list. We want to know how you have spent your time. And that includes everything. Do you have family responsibilities? Do you have younger siblings that you come home from school and manage? Do you have a job? With our zip code especially, jobs are good things. So even if it's weekend babysitting, it would go on that activity list. You probably don't want to put one-time events or the fact that maybe you participated in track freshman year if it didn't have any long-term effect on you. So you want to use those 10 slots wisely. But again, jobs, family responsibilities, outside interests, clubs, teams, they all would go on that list. But just because you have 10 slots doesn't mean that you have to fill all 10 up. So you're not just looking to put things in those slots that really have no value or meaning to you. I always tell kids too, especially after the application's been sent, if you interview later on, if the interviewer has access to that list, then you want to make sure you can speak about each one of the things that you put on the list because you care about it. If the school allows a resume, it will be on their college page and you can upload a resume. If it does not allow a resume, they don't want a resume. So listen to, again, the instructions on the application. But also it's a great opportunity to make sure that if you put slobs down, that you don't use an acronym, for example, that you actually spell it out. A college won't know what NCL is. And those are big activities in New Canaan. So make sure that when you look at the list, an outside person would be able to understand what you've put into it. And that's really about it. That's the nutshell of the application. And I think the bottom line is that we hope you don't lose sight of senior year. It's so great. Your kids are gonna, this time next year, you will be frustrated because they will be talking to you about coming home from their campus for October break. because the more you pay, the less they go. So, so enjoy the senior year. The application, you've got so many people here willing to help your students. Make good use of them. And if you have any questions, contact your counselor.
Yeah, we'll walk through anything that's happening, and it is your child's process at this point. So I know a lot of at the last meeting, I saw a lot of questions. So wait, I can't figure out how to do this. Help me, how do I get into Naviance? It's your child's duty, not duty. It's their responsibility to get through this, and it does help them understand where they're headed in terms of adulthood and taking on these things and filling out very detail oriented forms and not just clicking on every little thing. They are terrible at this right now. And as they get through the application and through each piece of this, you will see them change and get better at it. So these first ones, yeah, they're making some mistakes. Just don't let them hit submit till we can take a look and make sure it's all okay. Or you take a look and make sure it's all okay. Any other questions we haven't answered? I haven't really been looking that carefully. What?
I think that's it. I think you answered the fine arts one, so.
Okay. There is another essay that says, is there anything else you want to tell us, and a little space for that? And that too is a good place if there is a key activity that you haven't talked about anywhere else in your application that you might want to explain what that is a little bit more. So there is an opportunity to do that for something that you've done more than just be a leader or just be a member, that there was something key about that activity that you want to tell them about. So that's another space. All right.
And I think the other last question was, when is this going to be posted? So that's up for you, the PFA, the networking ladies to talk about.
Yes, I think typically it takes a day.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Have a
Appreciate
great
it.
day.
Yes, thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.